On the day I received the Ballet Gold Award, my husband's ex-girlfriend suddenly rushed onto the stage and snatched the microphone to attack me. I am a researcher of swans, and true loyal swans are always together with their partners. Yet Emily, who is clearly married, dances intimately with a male dancer on stage, completely unworthy of this Ballet Gold Award. My husband was grateful that his first love spoke well of me, and to make her happy, he took me to Swan Lake to learn how to be loyal. 6 months later, my husband came to Swan Lake to pick me up and happened to see me dancing with a swan. In these past 6 months, Sophia has really helped me a lot. I am now more refined, and I no longer carry the vulgarity that attracts men. Just as he finished speaking, I was affectionately entwined with the swan. My husband angrily drove us off the ice lake. I brought you here to learn how to be loyal to your husband, yet you treat the swan as a partner, which frustrates me. Come ashore when you realize you are wrong. The swan froze to death just to keep me warm. I also took off all my clothes and danced the courtship dance barefoot on the ice when my husband William came to pick me up. I was dancing with a beautiful white swan. Emily, during these 6 months at Swan Lake, have you felt their loyalty while being with the white swans every day? I didn't hear William's question. I was lost in the world of dance. Sophia cautiously glanced at him. For the past 6 months, I had been using the story of the white swan to teach Emily about loyalty. And now she no longer casually talks to men. Thank you, Sophia. Your guidance for her has been really good. William looked at me and nodded in satisfaction. You really should thank Sophia properly. You now have a pure aura, and you no longer possess that previous allure that attracted men. At that moment, the courtship dance ended, and I gently approached the swan, officially becoming its partner. William's expression changed. Emily, what's wrong with you? Sophia quickly advised me. Emily, William can tolerate you dancing intimately with the male actor in public. He said it's just to send you to Swan Lake to learn loyalty. Why are you so angry with him? I have been practicing ballet hard since I was young, and even before I married William, he knew I was a very talented ballet dancer. When he first saw me perform a duet, he was very impressed and began to pursue me from then on. But after we got married, William started to become dissatisfied with my participation in performances and competitions, even hoping that I would give up my dream and stay home to have children. At first, I felt a bit guilty towards him, thinking I wasn't accompanying him enough. I also thought that maybe he loved me more and felt uneasy about my close relationship with the dancers, until the day before the Swan Lake performance. I accidentally overheard a conversation between William and Sophia. Emily has danced the swan dance for many years, and her movements look just like a real swan. You need to find someone to experiment with you at Swan Lake, and Emily is the most suitable choice. Then I realized that while William always said he wanted me to learn loyalty, he was actually the one who was disloyal. Under William's cold gaze, I began to gather branches and leaves with the white swan to prepare a nest. Emily, I always thought you were a gentle and considerate person, but I didn't expect you to have such a fiery temper. William couldn't help but reach out to pull me. The swan became very nervous, just like before, standing in front of me to protect me whenever there was danger. William was pecked hard by the swan, and he stared at me in shock. Emily, are you really letting an animal harm your husband? William's gaze towards the swan tightened my heart. I nervously stood in front of the swan, holding its neck tightly. We had already promised to be partners, and now it is my husband. William was somewhat shocked after hearing this. You actually said this swan is your husband. I slightly lifted my chin and responded to him with a determined look. As soon as we arrived at Swan Lake, Sophia put me in the swan room. I lived with this group of swans every day, hoping to learn their pure qualities. However, the swans treated me as an intruder, and as a result, I was pecked and injured, bleeding from my head, in order to integrate into this group. I had no choice but to dance the swan dance. I developed a deep attraction to a white swan. It not only kept me company, but also guarded my food and water, preventing other swans from coming close to steal them. At night, when I slept with it by my side for warmth, I felt especially safe, having lived and eaten together for half a year. I gradually integrated into this circle. I began to see myself as a true white swan, and I regarded the swan that silently protected me as a reliable companion. So when it danced the courtship dance for me today, I followed my heart and decided to spend my life with it. At that moment, I hugged the swan's neck. It gently kissed my neck and helped smooth my disheveled hair. I was tickled by its kiss, and I couldn't help but snuggle closer to it affectionately. William's expression changed from confusion to panic. "Emily, do you really have feelings for a swan?" Sophia, looking dissatisfied, said. William, setting aside how well Emily has been living at Swan Lake for the past 6 months. How could she possibly develop feelings for a swan in just half a year? William was a bit surprised upon hearing this, then coldly smiled and said, "Emily, I brought you to Swan Lake to learn loyalty, and you've picked up such a vicious method. To think you couldn't distinguish between humans and animals. Deliberately harming Sophia this way. If I didn't know how upright and kind Sophia is, I might really be deceived by your wrongful appearance." I ignored their slander and anger. Gently touched beaks with the swan, only seeing each other in our eyes. William coldly smiled and said, "I brought you here to learn how to be loyal to your husband. And you treat the swan as a partner to make me uncomfortable. If you are unwilling to correct yourself, don't blame me for being heartless. Throw Emily and that swan onto the ice. Whenever she realizes her mistake, that's when she can climb back up." With William's command, the swan and I were thrown onto the thick ice of the lake. In an instant, the temperature dropped by more than 10 degrees, and it felt like it would freeze a person's blood in just a second. Even the swan, covered in feathers, couldn't withstand such biting cold. The instinct to survive made us desperately want to climb up, but William gritted his teeth and said he wanted to surround the lake with iron nets, preventing them from getting ashore. We searched everywhere for a way out, but our bodies quickly became stiff in the low temperatures, and our movements slowed down. My nose was frozen and lost all sensation, and a layer of frost had formed on my eyelashes. William sternly asked me, "Emily, do you realize you were wrong?" I slowly shook my head, not understanding what I had done wrong. It was clearly William who sent me to learn loyalty from the swan, and now that I have chosen a loyal partner. Is there something wrong with that? Watching my breath almost freeze, a hint of sympathy flashed in William's eyes, but it quickly faded away. "All right then. I'll see how long you can hold out." In this situation, I was trembling from the cold, my body on the verge of collapse. The swan voluntarily spread its wings and lay on the ice, trying to warm me with its soft belly, but the frost crawled up its claws, preventing it from moving, forcing it to endure until it froze to death. I was in tears, crying to William, begging him, "Please, let us go up. If this goes on, it will really freeze to death." William finally showed a satisfied expression, realizing he was wrong. "I can let you come up," Sophia suddenly exclaimed. "I've never seen a swan that would risk its life to protect someone. It seems this experiment was truly successful." "William, after they get to shore, I want to take this swan to the lab for experiments." I felt a pang in my heart. "I would never let you touch my husband. I'd rather stay here with him." William's expression immediately turned serious. "Emily, you are really disappointing. Then you can stay down there. I want to see how long you can hold out just to spite me." I looked at the white swan, now half covered in ice and snow, feeling as if my heart was being cut by a knife. There was no choice. I had to raise my head and mimic the swan's call. A deafening flurry of wings erupted as a flock of white swans flew out from their nest, heading towards the icy lake. In William's shocked gaze, I knelt before the group of swans, desperately pleading with them, my head pounding against the ground without stopping. "I beg you, I am willing to give everything to repay you. Please save my husband." The swans all wanted to help, but a tall iron net blocked them, preventing them from getting close to the icy lake. William was so shocked by the scene that he couldn't speak. He said to Sophia, "Didn't you say she was doing well here? How come the swans you raised would listen to Emily?" Sweat broke out on Sophia's forehead, but she quickly calmed down. She focused all her attention on her research. These swans usually only follow the commands of their keeper. Emily was sent to Swan Lake because of me. She might have been dissatisfied with me for a long time, so she secretly fed these swans, hoping that when William came to pick her up, I would be caught off guard. William clenched his teeth, thinking, Emily, it turns out you haven't learned anything in the past 6 months at Swan Lake, only plotting today's events to create a rift between Sophia and me. I didn't expect you to become so calculating and ruthless in these 6 months. It really confuses me whether it was me sending you to Swan Lake that changed you. Or if you were always like this. The blood on my forehead had already frozen, but I had no time to think about the cold and pain. All I could think about was the swan about to freeze to death. I took off my thick down jacket and covered it with it to keep it warm, while I wore only a thin sweater myself. William couldn't hold back any longer and shouted at me in surprise. Emily, what's wrong with you? You're overdoing it with this performance. Do you really need to hurt yourself to feel satisfied, as long as it can warm the swan? I'm willing to take the risk. Unfortunately, even wearing a down jacket, I couldn't block out the cold. William rushed to the iron fence and shouted, "Open the door." I'm going to pull her up right now. At that moment, Sophia rushed over to stop William, saying, "Just hold on a little longer. The swan is about to freeze to death. If it dies, Emily won't be able to perform alone anymore, and naturally, she won't have conflicts with you." William's eyes were filled with rage as he stared at me. Biting his lower lip in an effort to endure, I was almost in a panic, confused by my emotions. "Sophia, thank you so much." The white swan's soft, warm belly gradually became stiff and cold. I could only helplessly watch the white swan remain motionless, like an ice sculpture, devoid of life. When he passed away, it felt as if my soul was taken away with him. My heart burned like fire, and I paid no attention to William's shouts. I numbly stripped off all my clothes, wandering barefoot on the cold ground. I danced the swan dance my whole life. But I never expected that my last dance would be to accompany the swan. My feet were sore from the ice, but I still tried my best to tiptoe beside the white swan, pressing close to it. Wait, in the next life, we must be a couple again. At the moment my consciousness faded, I seemed to feel that familiar warmth once more. However, what echoed in my ears was William's desperate and broken cries. It felt like I had entered a long dream, where I returned to that familiar swan nest. The white swan kept watch by my side, warming my hands with its soft belly. But before I could fully immerse myself, a strong force pulled me back to reality. "How skilled are your doctors? Really, why hasn't my wife woken up yet?" Amid William's anxious inquiries, the doctor replied helplessly, "William, we have treated your wife with the latest medical technology. Her various health indicators are gradually returning to normal, but she hasn't woken up because she doesn't want to." William's voice trembled slightly. "What do you mean by that? What does it mean that she doesn't want to wake up? Are you saying that if she doesn't wake up, you'll just let her lie in bed forever?" "William, please calm down. Generally speaking, frostbite victims have a strong will to live once their condition stabilizes, but your wife is currently not only unwilling to wake up, but she also doesn't respond to the smell of food." The doctor's tone was serious. "I think you need to understand what your wife has been through, and you need to find a professional psychologist to treat her." William raised his voice in surprise. "Are you saying that she has experienced great suffering during this time and has lost the will to live?" The doctor did not answer and simply responded to William with silence. After a long time, William muttered to himself, "How could this happen? Emily has danced the swan ballet her whole life. Her favorite is the swan. I only sent her to Swan Lake to study for half a year. The scenery there is beautiful, and the air is fresh. Sophia is very kind and will definitely take good care of her." William suddenly became a bit nervous and said, "Swan, quick, check the habits of swans." His assistant quickly found the relevant information. Swans generally live for about 20 years and prefer to live near lakes and marshes. William interrupted irritably, "Get to the point. I want to know what impact Emily had on Swan Lake, not that I want to open a swan farm." The assistant was too nervous to speak, and William lowered his voice to begin speaking. Forget it. Let's start with the most basic information. The more detailed, the better. Not a single clue should be overlooked. As the assistant clearly restated, my consciousness began to blur again. William suddenly asked with a trembling voice, "What did you just say? How do swans find partners and reproduce?" "They perform courtship dances, and once they have chosen each other as mates, they build a nest together. Couples usually express their love for each other through intimate gestures, such as gentle touches, cuddling, and grooming each other's feathers." After the assistant finished speaking, the ward fell silent. After a long time, William finally choked out. "So that day, Emily wasn't intentionally acting irrationally in front of me to harm Sophia, but really chose that swan to be her partner." William had not fully accepted this fact, and his assistant nervously swallowed. "William, if that's the case, then the lady's condition becomes understandable. The reason swans are steadfast in love is that they choose only one partner for life. Once they are married, if one dies, the other will be very sad and may even wish to follow." With the sound of a chair crashing to the ground, the assistant anxiously asked, "William, are you okay?" After a commotion, William steadied himself against the wall and said, "It's fine. Emily will be okay. Take good care of her here and find her an excellent psychologist." "I'll go find Sophia right now. She's been studying swans for so long. She must be able to help." As he just opened the ward door, the assistant mustered up the courage to say, "William, do you really think Sophia is reliable?" William was a bit confused. "What do you mean by that? I'm not doubting your judgment, but just because some people are good to you doesn't mean they'll be good to those around you." The assistant thought for a long time but ultimately bravely voiced his suspicion. "Just like you said, Sophia has been studying swans for so many years. She also wants to send the lady to Swan Lake to learn about loyalty. The lady should be able to notice the changes in herself these days. Right, William?" "I'm a bit suspicious." The assistant suddenly stopped talking, seemingly frightened by William's expression. But William just bit his cheek and squeezed out a few words. "It's fine. You can continue. I think Sophia must have noticed that something was wrong with the lady long ago, but she has never taken action to resolve it, leading to the lady's and the swan's conditions worsening. It's even possible that all of this was orchestrated by Sophia behind the scenes." William spoke with some difficulty, sounding hesitant himself. He felt it was impossible. Sophia had loved small animals since childhood, and her kind and upright nature would never allow her to do such a thing. As soon as he finished speaking, the ward door opened. Sophia's voice rang out, "William, I didn't expect things to get this serious. I'm here to see how Emily is recovering." William said in a low tone, "The doctor said Emily's body is fine, but her spirit has been greatly harmed, so she doesn't want to wake up her." "How could such a thing happen?" Sophia exclaimed in surprise. "It was just a swan that froze to death. No matter how close animals are, Emily shouldn't be in so much pain over a swan. It was just a swan that died." William felt confused by Sophia's casual words. He asked, didn't she used to love small animals the most? Every time a small animal passed away, she would be very sad and would carefully bury them. "You once said your favorite was the elegant swan, and because you loved them, you studied swans. To help you achieve your dream, I sent Emily to Swan Lake to be with you. I originally thought that with you taking care of her, Emily would have a good life there. I didn't expect that in the end, it would still be my fault. If I hadn't impulsively sent her there, she wouldn't have turned out this way." Faced with William's suspicions and regrets, Sophia couldn't help but cry out, "William, are you blaming me for not taking care of Emily?" Before William could respond, she knelt in front of my hospital bed and apologized. "Emily, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. If I hadn't suggested you go to Swan Lake to learn about loyalty so you could be together for a long time, William wouldn't have had the heart to send you there to enjoy life. If you have any dissatisfaction, you can vent it directly to me. Please don't take it out on William, okay? He really cares about you and loves you, as long as you're willing to wake up." I'm willing to accept any criticism or blame without complaint. William's tone was heavy. It was unclear whether he was angry or feeling something else. Sophia, do you mean that Emily isn't really asleep, but is intentionally pretending to be like this out of anger? That's not what I mean. I'm just a bit confused. Sophia cried sadly. When Emily was at Swan Lake, I had already told all the staff to take good care of her. Although I've been busy with research and haven't been able to pay much attention to Emily. I think her days might just be a bit lonely, but not too difficult. Before William came to pick up Emily, her life at Swan Lake was perfectly normal. On the day William came to pick up Emily, she suddenly believed that a white swan was her husband and fell into a deep sleep due to the death of a white swan. Sophia said she didn't doubt me, but every word she spoke accused me of putting on an act. The noise gave me a headache, and I couldn't help but frown. In the past, whenever William saw Sophia in tears, he would lose his mind and completely support her. This time, he said calmly that as Emily's husband, I left her at Swan Lake for 6 months without caring for her, so it's understandable that she's angry with me. Now, whether Emily really doesn't want to wake up or not, she needs to rest properly. Noisy behavior here will affect her recovery, so it's better for you to go back for now. I heard Sophia gasp in surprise, seemingly unable to believe how cold William was towards her. All right, I've disturbed you and I apologize. My sudden visit today was thoughtless of me. Sophia's few words already seemed quite aggrieved. I know Emily is still angry with me, so I've decided to leave for now. Once Emily has cooled down, I'll come back to see her. She walked out slowly, wondering if she could soften William's heart to comfort her. This time, William not only said nothing but also took a seat by the hospital bed, holding my hand tightly. After Sophia completely left, William spoke to his assistant in a barely audible voice, asking to check on Sophia and Swan Lake. He wanted to know what she had gone through in the past 6 months within a day. The assistant's efficiency far exceeded William's expectations. He contacted the staff at Swan Lake and successfully obtained the surveillance footage and testimonies from the past 6 months. On the first day the lady arrived at Swan Lake, Sophia locked her in the swan's nest, thinking she was an intruder, and as a result, she was attacked by a group of swans and sustained many injuries. The lady, terrified, desperately called for help, but Sophia not only ignored her but also cut off her food and water, forcing her to compete with the swans for resources. Later, a white swan mistook the lady for one of its kind and began to develop an affection for her. Under the protection of this white swan, the lady was able to survive, avoiding death from thirst or hunger, and she was not harmed by other swans. The assistant grew increasingly angry as he spoke. At first, the lady couldn't close her eyes for 3 days and nights. And in her dazed state, she would curl up in a corner, endlessly calling your name, hoping you would come to take her home. Later, it was that white swan that stayed by her side to protect her. That's why the lady went insane, completely imagining herself as a white swan and seeing that swan as her partner. Listening to the assistant's description of my life over the past 6 months, William seemed to be choked by something, letting out a painful sound. The nature of swans is that they have only one mate for life. If one dies, the other will choose to leave as well. When we went to pick up the lady that day, William made her watch a white swan freeze to death, and as a result, she completely lost the will to live, preferring to lie there like a numb person rather than wake up. As the assistant finished his last word, William suddenly stood up and interrupted, saying, "Don't say any more." He held my hand with a grip as strong as a vice. "Emily, it's really my fault. I was deceived by Sophia's seemingly kind and righteous appearance, and I failed to see the truth about her." As I listened to William apologize to me while crying, I felt nothing inside, because after these 6 months, I have completely lost faith in William. His late realization is of no use to me, because the things I cared about are no longer in this world. Emily, wait for me. I won't let Sophia get away with this. I will make her face the consequences until she is willing to apologize to you. At that time, please forgive me. Okay, I promise you. I will always treat you sincerely and will never let you get hurt again. Hearing William's familiar words, I was momentarily taken aback. I remembered the day we got married, when he personally put the wedding ring on my finger and promised to protect me for life. However, later on, William personally took me to Swan Island, where I suffered greatly and nearly lost my life. Now he keeps talking about loyalty and protection, which sounds especially ridiculous to me. Not long after William left, a familiar voice suddenly rang in my ears. The voice that once gently comforted me brought me some solace when I was hurt, and it also made those who wanted to harm me feel afraid. Like that white swan, it has returned to my side once again. I was eager to confirm my suspicions, but when I opened my eyes, I saw the obvious fatigue and unease in William's eyes. He was momentarily stunned, then an excited smile appeared on his face. Great, it really worked. Emily, you finally woke up. William was no longer as mature and composed as before. He was like a happy child, unsure where to put his hands. My heart sank once again, feeling a sense of emptiness. It turned out that all of this was a beautiful dream and trap created by William to wake me up. When he saw the disappointment in my eyes, he seemed to be stimulated by something. He was taken aback and immediately told his assistant, "Hurry, bring Sophia over." Upon hearing the instruction, the assistant quickly brought in the seemingly haggard and lifeless Sophia into the ward. In the past, she would always excitedly rush towards William when she saw him. But now she avoided him as if she had seen a ghost. Sophia trembled all over. "William, I'm really sorry. I know I was wrong. Please let me go. You really don't deserve me calling your name." William gritted his teeth and slapped Sophia hard, angrily asking, "You think a simple apology can absolve you from punishment for what you've done to Emily?" Sophia, bleeding from the mouth after the slap, knelt on the ground begging me, "Emily, it's my inappropriate feelings for William that led to my jealousy towards you. I acted foolishly and committed this unforgivable act." After witnessing William's ruthlessness, Sophia had no choice but to place her hopes on me. "Emily, during the time you were in a coma, you have no idea what I went through. To take revenge for you, William locked me in the swan's lair and didn't give me any food or water. I have many scars on my body, and I sincerely hope you can understand that I have realized my mistakes. Please be a bit more forgiving and talk to William. Can you give me a chance to live, please? I promise I will keep my distance and never appear in front of you again." Hearing Sophia's plea, I felt no sympathy in my heart. Because I had once begged William to spare the white swan, and at that time, he had actually softened. But Sophia kept stirring things up, forcing William to trap us on the ice lake until the end. She killed the white swan and almost got me killed too. No matter how much Sophia suffers, I won't feel the slightest sympathy for her, seeing me remain silent. Sophia kept banging her head harder and harder. Her forehead quickly broke skin, and blood started to flow. I saw that familiar shade of red, and suddenly remembered that day on the ice lake, when I begged them in the same way, and the blood froze on my forehead. No matter how softly I pleaded, they never gave me or the white swan any chance. If it weren't for the white swan's help, I might have been dead long ago. He gave me a chance to survive, so I must cherish his intentions. Thinking of this, I tried to speak in the tone Sophia used that day, but when you locked me in the swan's nest, I begged you the same way, yet you didn't let me go. You made me eat things I didn't want and drink dirty water. Even when I complied, you still left me there to fend for myself, right? Even though I spoke lightly, I still angered William. He seemed to have truly returned to that moment. His eyes filled with anger as he grabbed Sophia by the neck. "I entrusted my wife to you because I believed in you, but you not only betrayed my trust, you also dared to abuse and humiliate her. Sophia, you are truly disappointing." Sophia's face turned red, her mouth wide open as if she was about to faint. She desperately slapped his hand, her fingers digging deep into his skin. Even though she made his hand bleed, William, consumed by anger, barely felt any pain. She looked terrifying, as if she might strike at any moment, her inner resentment spilling out. Sophia was running out of strength, and the assistant couldn't help but rush forward, urging William, don't act impulsively. It will be too late if you make a big mistake. We have many opportunities and ways to vent our emotions. William was like a beast that had lost its reason, completely ignoring the assistant's pleas. The assistant was sweating profusely, looking at me with a pleading gaze, hoping I could persuade William. But I merely watched William and Sophia fighting each other, having no intention of stopping their conflict. Seeing this, the assistant could only muster the courage to speak again. William, it's really not worth sacrificing your entire life for someone unworthy. I know a very famous mental hospital, where sometimes those who enter feel a bit more at ease. Upon hearing this, William slowly relaxed his grip, and his rationality gradually returned as soon as he let go. Sophia collapsed weakly to the ground, clutching her neck, gasping for air, looking very disheveled. Then let's invest $10 million in the mental hospital, so that the doctors there can ensure they use the best equipment and methods to treat Sophia's mental issues. As William finished speaking, the originally weak Sophia seemed to suddenly gain some strength. She jumped up from the ground, her eyes frantic, looking around the ward, finally fixing her gaze on the fruit knife on the table. By the time William and the assistant understood her intent, she had already grabbed the knife, pointing it at us, William and Emily. If you two are still planning to keep bothering me, I'll share the consequences with you. Sophia's roar echoed throughout the ward. I absolutely do not want to suffer in a mental hospital for the rest of my life. Don't expect to see me in pain. William instinctively protected me from behind and sternly said to Sophia, Emily hasn't fully recovered yet. Don't act impulsively. You clearly made the mistake first, which led to her becoming like this. It's all your fault. It's my fault. Sophia laughed maniacally. William, you said that among all animals, only the white swan is the most elegant. So I pursued research on white swans. All my affection for everything is because of you. I pondered on how to help the white swans live longer on Swan Lake, how to solve their livelihood issues, wanting to create a unique and beautiful white swan as a gift for you. Sophia was very angry, her gaze towards me filled with hostility. While you fell in love at first sight with Emily, who danced the swan dance, completely leaving me no chance, and ended up marrying her in a flash, I was the one who got to know you first. And I was the one who had feelings for you first. Emily is the real third party. How can she be so happy living with you as Mrs. William? After shouting loudly, Sophia lost control of her emotions and charged at me with a knife. I was already prepared to sacrifice everything for the white swan, with no thought of evading. I didn't expect that this time William stood before me without hesitation, not moving at all. Listening to the sound of the knife piercing the flesh, we were all stunned. Even Sophia trembled as she let go of her blood-soaked hands. Don't blame me. It was your choice to shield Emily from the knife, leading to her death. Sophia looked at the fallen William, her face a mix of crying and smiling, saying it wasn't me who harmed Emily, but you who sent her to Swan Lake for me to study. Have you forgotten? This is not my problem. It's all of you. The frantic Sophia was quickly pinned to the ground by the bodyguards called in by her assistant. When the doctor arrived to treat him, William crawled to my side with all his strength and said, Emily, this time I tried my best to protect you. Please don't hate me anymore. Okay, I coldly looked at William's pleading eyes and said nothing. His face was filled with defeat and injury, but he still carefully asked me, Emily, if I survive this time, can you forgive me and give me a chance to protect you? Seeing William's pale face and excessive blood loss, I finally coldly said one clear word. No, because your wife Emily actually passed away on the day she was sent to Swan Lake. The current Emily is the companion of that white swan. You don't need to shield me from this, because whether Sophia's knife hurts me or not, I will always remain loyal to my husband. William's lips were pale and trembling, but he couldn't utter a word. I couldn't help but smile slightly. You sent me to Swan Lake to learn loyalty, and look, I have now completely mastered single-mindedness.